Hello los amigos, j'espère que tout le monde se porte bien. Épisode un peu particulier, il va être en anglais cette fois-ci. J'ai la chance de recevoir un invité, je pense qu'il va apprendre beaucoup de choses à beaucoup de gens, moi compris. Je vais le laisser se présenter dans quelques secondes. Pour vous donner un petit peu de contexte, on a quelques questions qui sont venues auparavant concernant les héritages. Comment fonctionnent les héritages à Dubaï, aux Émirats au sens plus large. On n'était pas les bonnes personnes clairement pour y répondre. On a ramené, vous allez voir le profil de la personne, c'est quelqu'un plus que qualifié, je pense. Donc, let's start. Mr. Mohammad, welcome.
Thank you very much, Abdullah, for having me.
Thank you for accepting the invitation at short notice as well.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Okay, great. So, can you introduce yourself to the audience?
Yes, my name's Mohammad Marria. I'm from India. I was born in the UK, and I moved here to the UAE back in 2005, and from 30 years plus, I've been into wills, probate, inheritance, and every country has their law. So the UK, like many countries in Europe, they have a tried and tested system. However, for UAE, it was a challenge. So I came in 2005, and I've been doing this for 20 years almost in the UAE, but in total having about 35-year experience. So it's been challenging. It's been very interesting, and I love the work I do. In fact, I love it too much that I feel like it's not work. It's a passion. And I believe when you turn work into passion, then it's not work. So
you don't count anymore.
You don't count anymore. And I feel like as I wake up, I'm thinking and doing my work. And when I sleep, I then switch off. So I love the work, and people love me for the work I do. And, with God's grace, with the networking and talking and educating expats within the UAE, within the Gulf, it's been a privilege trying to help people navigate their estate planning. So I deal with different people, different walks of life, different nationalities, different religions. So it's been very interesting. I love it.
Okay, fantastic. So basically, when you came, what was the system like when it came to inheritance and will?
It was very challenging for me. It was something very new. So when I came here speaking to the courts, it's not the concept of a testament or a will. It's not that they didn't know what it was. It was trying to implement the system, because that time back in early 2000, when expats can buy properties, people weren't thinking about the wills. The properties are being sold, people moving here, people investing money here, people coming here with their children, with their families, setting up businesses. Large multinational corporations were moving their bases here. So for me, it was a challenge, just trying to tell the legal system here that you need to have a system for the wills and probate. So, for me, that time, you got to sort of put the message across, but be very subtle about it. Try to, tell them how it should be done, but at the same time, let them deal with it. So I remembered writing articles in newspapers, any sort of media, marketing. I'll say, yeah, we need to have a system. There is a requirement. And I'm glad to say that in 2012, November 2012, Dubai courts launched a system for wills to be registered in the courts here. And I remember taking my first client in round about December 2012, and I didn't know what I was going to expect, because, it's the leaflet was there, they accepting it. I remember they said it would be launched in November, but it didn't happen till December. So when I took my client there and I told him, be prepared, I don't know what's going to happen, what questions they're going to ask. They registered the will, and I was so happy that I actually contributed to this, that I can say to many years afterwards, say to people, we assisted the courts and we registered the first will. And yes, we were the first company to set up in the UAE. But in the beginning, for me, until the courts didn't have the system, if you came to me, a French national, wanting to register a will, I'll draft the will for you, but I'll say, sorry, you need to take it to your embassy for attestation. Those days, the embassies were very helpful. They knew the court wasn't having the system. So I was, sort of tied up with the majority of the embassies here, the Italian, the French, the Spanish, German, and we would draft the wills, and then you would go to your embassy and have it attested and stamped by the embassy. But I wasn't convinced.
But basically, the rules from the country was like applying on that will?
We're applying the rules, the laws of your home country in the UAE.
Okay.
I wasn't convinced that this is the sort of a rock solution because I wanted the court to notarize it. So when I came in 2005, up to 2012, you had to go to your embassy. But then the moment when the courts opened their doors, I went back to everyone, said, right, move to the courts now. Get the will registered in the court because there's a local court stamp. Now, if you take Qatar, for example, up to today, they don't have the court system. So if you was registering a will from Qatar, I can give it to you, but you have to go to your embassy. Now, I've approached the courts in Qatar to tell them to have the system, but sorry to say, they're a little bit slow.
Okay.
So I need to do all that marketing again and all of that. But it's a bit difficult when you're based in the UAE.
Yeah, obviously. Okay. And we are in 2012.
That's when Dubai courts opened their doors in December that you can register a will. But it was only for the non-Muslim expats.
Okay.
So if you're a Muslim by religion, the courts wouldn't allow it.
Okay.
But now we're in 2024 and a lot of things have changed.
Okay. So fast forward. Okay, I'm going to put myself in a buyer's shoes, let's say. I'm a French national. I'm buying a property in Dubai. Worst case scenario, I haven't drafted a will. I pass away. What comes next?
Look, when you go to the court and you tell them that you passed away with no will and no documents, there is a few options you have. So if you go to the court, you can apply the laws of your home country. However, you need to get a lot of documents from your home country, and that will take a lot of time, and then you need to get it attested for the UAE. And so the timing and costs is very high. Or you say to the courts, I want your law. So they'll base it on the Sharia principles. Now, like I tell everyone, every country has their default law if you pass away with no will. So if you look at the Sharia principles, the husband pass away, you club everything he owns into 100 shares. Whatever he owns, his car, bank account, property, company, stock, shares, investments. Even if he has gold bars sitting in a locker account, you club everything together as 100 shares. So the wife, if he's married, will take 12.5 shares. The mother and father will take 16.66 each. And the balance is 2 shares to the son, 1 share to the daughter. Now, if we sort of start from the beginning in terms of inheritance, take the UK, for example. In the UK, it's your money, do what you like. So you can say, I'm giving the money to the dog.
Yeah.
Now, you might say, which person will give the money to the dog? People do it to teach their children a lesson that they prefer the dog over them. And there's been many cases when the father is in the old age home and the children don't visit them, they don't meet them, and they're only waiting for the father to die so they can get the inheritance. Father's in the old age home, he gets a pet, he's friendly with the pet spends time, and the father's thinking, all these years I've been sacrificing for my children. Now, where did I go wrong? You know, they don't want to see me. And then he's thinking, why should I give the money to them? So he says, I'm leaving everything to the dog. Now, is he right or wrong? That's that's another topic. But let's be practical. He's hurt. He's not happy. So he makes a will to the dog. Now, the funny thing is, the UK courts will accept it. That's the funny part. They will accept it. So in other words, it's your money, do what you like. So you're happily married. Tomorrow you meet a woman and she makes a fool out of you and she makes you change the will to her. You can do it. Now, if you go to Europe, the estate is 50-50 between the wife and the children. Now, why is it 50-50? Because in Europe, it's very common that if the husband passes away or the wife passes away, the next person, the surviving spouse, will probably get married again. Yeah? So in Europe, they say, you can't keep the 100% of the money. So you imagine your wife makes a will to you for 100%. She's no more. I'll, in writing, say to you, Abdullah, you're going to get married again. You're going to find another woman.
Wow.
It's, sorry to say.
It does make sense.
It's something, it will happen. Because in Europe, they say, if your partner passes away, up to you what you want to do. But what they don't want you to do is to gamble the children's share. That's why the money's split 50-50. You see my point? So you can say to me in the UAE, what I own in the UAE, I want everything to go to my wife. If you make a will, the court will accept it.
Okay.
In Europe, you can't do it. Because the wife is only taking 50, your children is taking 50%. So if you make a will and you're no more, your money goes to your wife. Let's say she takes 100%. And let's say tomorrow she remarry or she misused the money, your children are affected. So in Europe, they say 50-50. So you cannot gamble the children's
money.
But according to Islamic law, your mother and father who raised you, clothed you, fed you, sacrificed for you, they should get a slice of the cake. That's why they take 1/6 each. So you look at UK, give the will to the dog, do what you like. Give the money to your girlfriend, do what you like. You can favor one child over another child, do what you like. Europe, wait a minute, it's 50-50. So your 100 euros, 50 will go to your wife and 50 will go to your 2 children, 25 each. That's the law there. According to Islamic law, your mother and father who raised you, clothed you, fed you, sacrificed you, they take a share. So if you look at all the laws, I would say Islamic law at least honors your parents by giving them a slice of the cake. So here in the UAE, when you make a will, you decide. But if you say to me, I'm making a will to the dog, I say, wait a minute, Abdullah, I can't get involved. Because if you're depriving your family, giving the money to an animal, I can't do it. In fact, the court won't accept it. Okay. So as of today, draft your will, register it, the court will accept it.
Okay. And what about children that are still underage? How it works?
Now, depending on how you are dividing the estate, so let's say you are splitting the money 50-50, like as in Europe. So your wife or the mother of the child, she will be looking after the share of the children, or you appoint someone else. So when it comes to having a will, there are different sort of sections or different terminologies. So who's the beneficiary? So you look at what you own, club everything as 100 shares. Who's getting the money? You might say, okay, I want it going to my wife and my children equally. So you have 2 children, 1 wife, 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. That's okay. But then you say, wait a minute, my children are minor. Now, my wife, I love her. She's a good mother, but she can't look after the money. I'm scared she might misuse it. I'm scared she might, give it to someone. So I want my brother to get involved. Your brother becomes the trustee, the executor. He looks after the money, making the school fees payments, dealing with the rent, any other expenses, maintenance, medical, holidays. That's your brother. So when it comes to the will, you have the beneficiaries who gets the money. Then you have the trustees looking after the money. But another important element of the will, which I think everyone should factor in, is the physical guardianship of your children. In other words, if God forbid, husband and wife both pass away, who's going to look after the children? That's why you have a temporary guardian and a permanent guardian. So temporary is somebody living in the UAE who will get to the scene quickly.
Okay.
I wrote an article back in 2008. What happened was that in a school in DIP, Dubai Investments Park, there was a case where the parents died in a car accident. And the school where the children were studying, because they didn't know what to do, they called the police to take the children into custody because they didn't know what to do. They were scared. Children at school.
Yeah,
Who
what
do
should
they
we do?
call? What should we do? Who can take the kids? Who can take them out the country? They called the police. Police came, took the children. Remember, they called the police. Not that the police came on their own. Somebody called the police. They have to come and do their due diligence now. So when the police came, they had to then contact the embassy of the nationality of the family. They contacted the home country to locate the grandparents or the next of kin. By the time they got all the paperwork in order, got the visas and whatever documents are required, it took 3 months for them to come to take the children. Now, I tell everyone, don't ask me where were the children for the 3 months. This is why you make a will. Because at the end of the day, Abdullah, we are all expats living in the UAE. Our parents, our siblings, our close family members, they're not here.
Yeah,
They're in a home country.
We tend to forget that at some point.
Everyone overlooked this. So you imagine, and everything's God forbid, if both husband and wife pass away, who's going to look after the children? I'm not even talking about your money. I'm not even talking about your property. I'm not talking about the will itself. I'm saying who's looking after your children? So this is why, for me, if you having children especially, having the will is very important. But people don't think about this.
Yeah, they get caught up with the daily life and they tend to...
They're only worried about their money. That's all.
Yeah.
So it's like somebody ring me and say, oh, I bought a property. I need to make a will. I said, have you got children? They said, yes. I said, that's when you should make a will. Why are you worried about your property? You'll probably sell it tomorrow. Maybe the property it goes into negative equity. Maybe you can't sell it, but your children, your flesh and blood, who's going to look after them? That's why the will is there. So in terms of the will itself, if you pass away with no will, the law of the land will apply. Now, I'm not here to tell you which law is better, respectfully. It's not my job. But if you make a will, the court will accept it. But if you don't make a will and they apply the law of the land, then don't complain.
Absolutely, yeah.
And don't expect the court to come to you and say, hey, Abdullah, you've moved here. Make your will. And if you think your embassy is going to help you, forget it.
Yeah.
They're only going to offer the condolences. You are on your own.
Exactly, and it makes me go back to what you said prior. Like, I can imagine the environment was very different back then with the expat community. I'm assuming back then the embassy were more helpful. The community was smaller maybe, but now with super high number of expat, I don't think embassy will help whatsoever.
Look, respectfully, embassy weren't doing much in the first place. I'm sorry. They will just probably might give you some information. I mean, I remembered contacting the embassies to try and have a system put in place to educate expats or the they say the French community to educate them, but no, they weren't interested. They say you're doing a good job, but we cannot endorse this because it will look like they are having some sort of financial arrangement. They say you're doing a good job, keep it up. So this is why over the years, marketing, talking, in podcasts, newspaper articles, I even went on TV doing some talk shows, educating expats. You just moved here, make a will.
Yeah.
But people think, oh, we're only here for 1 month, 6 months, or we're only here for we got a contract for 1 year. We don't need it. I said, fine. But when somebody passes away, I get busy. Then everyone is realizing the dangers, the pitfalls, the disadvantages. But it's too late, though.
Yeah. You have to do your due diligence and do the thing in the right time.
That's correct.
As early as possible, I can say.
I recommend it. Unfortunately, sorry to say this, but people tend to learn the hard way.
Yeah, that's the hardest way to learn, actually.
It is. I don't like it. That's why we have carried out several presentations, webinars. I've been into so many corporates, talking, educating. There are companies here even saying, if you're an employee of a company, we'll pay for your will. Even then, they're sleeping.
Wow.
So what can I do then?
Yeah. And going back to the property thing, do you know what's the youngest age children can inherit?
21. The age of maturity in this country is 21. Now, please note, and it's very important, that the age of maturity in other countries is 18. But if I was to ask any parent, you have 100,000 euros, what age would you give it to your child? 18, 21, 25? You know what they'll say to me?
40.
30. So
Yeah,
the
for
age
sure.
of maturity is 18, but no parent would trust even their children to have this money. Here it's 21. For me, they're doing you a favor at 21, but technically it should be minimum 25.
Okay. And before that, let's again take a concrete example. Someone bought a property. He passed away. His children, I would say they're like 18, 17. The property is being rented out. So let's say if he's appointed a guardian, his brother. So the brother will collect the rent of that property to make sure.
First of all, there should be a will registered in the court.
Obviously, yeah.
Remember, there's a will in the court registered. So there's clarity. There's a legal document confirming the wishes of the person who passed away, how the matter should be handled. But housekeeping tips, you should open up bank accounts for the children. Because when it comes to dealing with the distribution of the money, whether it's the rental money, whether there's the money in the bank account, court is not going to give the money to the trustee. Say, here's the money in your bank account. No, they want the children's bank accounts. Now, you tell me, Abdullah, how many expats move in here in the UAE, open up bank accounts for their children?
Very few.
People say we don't even know we can do it. You can do it. But if you speak to the banks, they're not marketing this because there's no money in it for them. So for the expats coming here, there is housekeeping tips. I tell everyone you should be following today. The will is one of you can say, the most important housekeeping tip is the will. But there's several other housekeeping tips I tell people to follow, and you should do this today. And bank accounts is one thing.
Okay. And what about in the case there is multiple owners?
Whoever owns the property, I'm covering that person. So if there are multiple owners, each person needs to have a will. Because I don't know who's going to pass away.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
No one knows. So if you have a property in joint names between husband and wife, both husband and wife should make a will each. Because everything here is divided, say 50-50. Husband passed away, the wife keep her 50%, but now we're dealing with the husband's 50%.
Okay.
So the wife pass away, husband keep his 50%. Now looking at the wife 50%, where does it go? You need a will for that.
Okay. And what about if let's say I'm an expat, I draft a will back in my country. Could be recognized
It can
here
be
in the UAE?
recognized here, but it's just the time it takes. Everything's got to be translated into Arabic. It needs to be certified by the UAE embassy in your home country. All of that time and money, believe me, it's recommended you make a local will here because they will execute it immediately. And there's no further attestations required.
And by the way, how much it costs to?
Look, if you're looking at registering the will in the court, it's say about 3,000 dirham. To draft a will was anything between, if you want a single or a mirror will, between 6 to 10,000 dirham. So it's not that expensive compared. And the will includes the guardianship of your children as well. You know, I even put another clause in case, God forbid, husband, wife, and children all pass away in a freak accident. There is a beneficiary who will step in to take the inheritance.
Yeah, that's very thoughtful, I have to say, because life could be very fragile at some point, and it's good to be prepared for any worst case scenario.
That's correct. I have to look at every eventuality.
Okay, and when it comes to the taxes, because as you know, we were speaking off camera, the taxes in Europe are pretty high, especially France. So what about, like, in France we have something called, if I'm not mistaken, anyway, it will come back, but the inheritance, is it taxed here in Dubai?
See, there's no taxes in the UAE. Yes, when you transfer a property from husband to wife or father to son, whatever it is, there are some land department fees, but that's not inheritance tax. Now, in the UAE, there is no IHT, inheritance tax, but your home country can tax you in the UAE.
Okay, I mean, if you bring the money back to your home country or from, okay, let's, again, a concrete example. Droit de succession, that's the word I was looking for.
Yeah.
We have droit de succession in France. Let's say I'm inheriting a property or some money, no tax here in the UAE. But then after a year or two, I'm moving back to France. I will send the remaining money that I have in my Dubai account to my French bank account. What's going to happen, basically?
Look, anything going back to your home country, you have to disclose all this information to the home country. Now it's up to your home country what they do. Majority of the Europeans, and this is, please know, I'm not a tax specialist, but I try to give you some general or some housekeeping tips. First of all, what's in the UAE stays in the UAE, unless you tell your home country what you have, who passed away, what you inherited. That's between you and your home country. Now, if you take, from my understanding, Italy, they have an agreement with the UAE that any information here, UAE will give it to Italy. Now, I cannot say for France, maybe it will happen tomorrow. When it comes to taxes, they keep moving the goalposts every time. Nobody knows exactly what's going to happen tomorrow. But as a few housekeeping tips I'll give to you is, number one, if you can tell your home country tax authorities you're not living there, you're here, that's one thing I recommend you should do. Number two, when you draft in your will, you in the will put a clause to say I am resident and domiciled in the UAE. Number three, you can apply for a tax residency certificate that you're tax resident in the UAE. Now, once you put all these documents together, the chances of your home country taxing you here is less. But I still can't say 100%.
Yeah, you cannot guarantee. Yeah.
No one can guarantee. But one thing I can tell you, if you take the money back to your home country,
for sure it will.
then you are opening a can of worms. So a lot of the people's inheritance I deal with, I tell them, now you've got the money, open a bank account in the UAE and keep it here.
Yeah, it sounds like the best move, obviously.
But then, respectfully, Everyone should open bank accounts here.
Yeah.
So you remember I said children
Yeah,
should
even the children.
get it done. Now let's say, for example, you're leaving money to your mother and father, open bank accounts here. But when you take the money back to Europe,
Yeah, then like...
and it's a different matter. It's opening a can of worms. What can I say now then?
especially some people, they're not even declaring the property at first place.
Exactly.
They bought a-
So telling the home country you're not living there, you're not domiciled, that is something you do in your lifetime. Then having the will and the tax residency certificate, you can do that anytime. But get it done while you're
Yeah.
alive. I had a case, somebody from Denmark passed away in the UAE. And it was really very tragic. He passed away, and Denmark taxed him for all his money in the UAE.
Wow.
It went to the High Court. They said, sorry, we can't, there wasn't enough paperwork to prove he was domiciled or resident. Even when we had the Emirates ID card, we had a trade license, but they said it's not enough. So now the UAE government is issuing a tax residency certificate. But you know, these are the things, like the will, the testament, you should be doing today.
If you don't ask for it, no one will come knock your door
Thank
and
you.
tell you to do it.
That's
yeah.
why it's important. You need to get this information. And this is what we specialize in. But respectfully, when it comes to tax advice, I keep telling this to everyone, they keep moving the goalposts. So I can only have certain knowledge, but tomorrow,
Yeah,
like Italy, when did they got this system that they have to...
Yeah, I'm actually surprised, to be honest.
I was surprised. You know who told me? An Italian business owner. So now I have to disclose all my information to the Italian government. So even he was shocked. Now, because he's Italian, he knew, he told me. Now, if it happened to a Spanish individual, a French individual, I cannot say anything. That's why getting independent tax advice, I always recommend you get it done.
All right. And the rules are being applied, the rules that are applied in Dubai are applied all over the UAE?
Correct.
The same, yeah.
When you draft a will, I'm covering the UAE. I'm not covering one emirate. I'm covering all 7 emirates. So what I tell people, the will is covering your net assets. If you owe the bank money, it's got to be paid first. Let's say you have a mortgage with the bank. There is life assurance, agreed, for the mortgage. Yeah. Now, you'll be shocked. Many people don't have life assurance.
Yeah.
So post-death, you have to sell the property, clear the mortgage, and the net balance, as per the will, goes to the beneficiary. So let's say you have a car loan. You have to sell the car. The bank wants their money. This is why I tell people, keep life assurance.
And meanwhile, the installment are running, or they
That's
do
why
they cause
freeze.
anything?
That's why they freeze the bank accounts. When the banks are informed of death, they freeze everything. So there's no late payment amounts. There's no charges, no interest, nothing. But having life assurance, I tell people, bank wants their money. Take life assurance. So this is part of the housekeeping tip. We have a very thorough checklist, housekeeping tip list people need to follow.
And speaking of debt, like everything is being carried out through the next generation when it comes to the debt and cases.
You see, debts is something that needs to be paid, but it doesn't mean your family has to pay for it, no. But your family cannot claim anything until you settle the debt. Example, you owe the bank 100 dirham. There's only 70 dirham. The bank will block the bank account. They will keep the 70 dirham. But there's a 30 dirham deficit. Now, they can't go to your family and say, pay the 30 dirham. But if your family want to claim the 70 dirham, they can't do it.
Okay.
Because the
Fair
bank has
enough,
kept the money.
Yeah.
But the bank cannot go back to the family and say, oh, we still owe 30, pay up. No, they can't do that.
Okay. And it doesn't have to be necessarily cooperation. I'm asking you this because I have a friend of mine. He won a case, and the person was supposed to pay him a certain amount. That person passed away.
Okay.
And that person has kids. Now they moved back to their home country, but they stayed, after the death, they stayed like another 2 to 3 years within the country. And he was like, it was very vague. Even he was asking around lawyers, etc. Like, how could
Look, if you look at the person who died, at the end of the day, his assets will be called into the court for distribution. Now, if the person who was owed money went to the court and said, I'm owed money, here's the paperwork, then out of that, the money that was blocked, they should pay him his money. But they cannot force the children to pay for it.
Okay.
They can't do that.
All right. Honestly, that's very interesting. That's very interesting because with this video, we hope like a lot of people will kind of wake up, and it will ring the bell, because that's very important. And again, the amount is like for what you get in return.
You know, respectfully, I feel like this is a subject people don't want to talk about. Number one.
Yeah, maybe they found it a bit bleak, or
some cultures, they find this to be a taboo, bad luck. You're asking for trouble. But it doesn't matter what religious or cultural background you come from. No one's going to live forever. I think this is one fact we all agree with. Doesn't matter what is your school of thought. I think we all can agree one day we're going to go. So it's now up to you how you want to leave your fears behind. You want your family to suffer, or you want to give them a watertight roadmap. This is where we come in. We will offer you a watertight roadmap system on how things should be. But like I told you, open the bank accounts of the children. Now, I'm not going to go and open the account for you, am I? I'm telling you, get it done. Same thing I will say to you, take out life insurance. I don't sell it, but I'll tell you to do it. Another document I strongly recommend is a power of attorney. Now, you imagine if somebody's brain dead, incapacitated, or in a coma, can a will work? If you're in a hospital brain dead, can a will work?
No, I don't think so.
No, you're right. Why? Because you're still alive. Agreed?
Yeah, of course.
In Europe, they call it procuration. Maybe I'm not saying it with the right accent. Procuration. Now, in Italy, they call it procura. Okay? And I know in Europe, it's usually procuration. Procuration, sorry. Who prepares one? You're living here. You have a business. You have property. You have bank accounts. You're traveling a lot. You're working hard. Tomorrow you're brain dead, incapacitated, in a coma. How's your family going to deal with your finances? The will cannot work because you're still alive. Procuration.
The POA, basically the power of attorney, could be like, because I've done few.
Yes.
I've actually done a lot, but for property matter.
We're talking about a full general power of attorney.
That was my question. It's
A to Z. It's a very powerful document. For me, it's a double-edged sword. Be careful.
Yeah, because
be careful.
You give the full rights.
Thank you. Well, if somebody said, I don't trust my wife, I said, well, don't make the power of attorney then. Simple. But I recommend it. If your children are above 21, give it to them as well. But remember, power of attorney is during your lifetime. When somebody passes away, there's a death certificate. The power of attorney is null and void. It's finished. Then the testament comes out. Then the testament is there. But for the time being, you're still alive. Power of attorney.
It never has to be like renewed or anything?
Now the system changed recently that when there is a QR code on the power of attorney, you don't renew it.
Okay.
But before, I tell you what the problem was. Let's say you gave a power of attorney to someone, a friend, to deal with some property matters. Tomorrow he can misuse it. Maybe your property transaction is complete, but he's still holding the power of attorney. Land department got so many complaints because people were, the principal giving the power of attorney to the attorney, and the attorney was still misusing the power of attorney. That's why the land department put a system in place first. Any power of attorney more than 2 years old, go back and get it revalidated. So they put that system in. But to tell the truth, if you're going to misuse a power of attorney, what is 2 years? You can do it in 2 hours. Now, you can't revalidate a power of attorney every day, can you? It's silly. So 2 years is still better than nothing. But now they've got the QR code. So if you took the power of attorney to any government department, from the QR code, they can track if the power of attorney is valid or not.
Yeah, I really admire that country for that. They always like try to upgrade constantly.
I respect, really, hats off to the system here, because post-COVID, the changes are made here. It's incredible. And no other country in Europe has kept up with the UAE. So you look at Qatar, they don't even have a system to register the will. So sorry to say, they're very far behind. I'm hoping they'll do something. But do you know now, if you're sitting in France, you can register a power of attorney through a video call?
Yeah, I've done it. I was very impressed the first time it happened.
If you are sitting in, I don't know, in Canada, and you want to register a will, you can do it online. So you don't have to come here.
They made it very easy.
Very simple. That's why hats off to the system here, that they're very forward thinking. I mean, when I came in 2005, it took 7 years for the system to get in place. But at least I bought the system, and I was really happy. Then Dubai courts came in 2012. Then you had DIFC courts in 2015, Abu Dhabi courts 2018, and then Abu Dhabi Global Market, ADGM, they've bought a system for will registration in, I think it was in 2020. So I'd say you got not one, not two, not three, 4 different court systems. One of 4 different court systems to register a will in the UAE.
And okay. What about you mentioned something about the DIFC?
Yes.
It's something different?
The IFC is semi-government, so they have a sort of a very premium service where you can register the will only for non-Muslims.
Okay.
However, when it comes to execution enforceability, you still got to go back to Dubai courts. So as of today, for me, if you're a Muslim wanting to register the will, regardless if you're French, Indian, British, Spanish, whatever, you can register the will in the Abu Dhabi courts.
Okay. Oh, and usually it takes time to be executed, or usually it's pretty fast?
I would say to you that if you're dealing with execution after a person has died, first of all, there is a folder called a death folder, a checklist of all the documents you should have. Having that folder, I'm sorry to say, it's where people are not sort of understanding the concept. For example, not you personally, but how many men tell their women, their wives, where the money is in the first place?
Yeah, very
Think
few.
about it. Very few. Now, when you go into the court, you need that list of assets. Now, how many people make that list? Hardly. So assuming there is a list, a checklist, the death folder, I call it, within 2 months, the court is writing to the banks, the land department, transfer the money. 2 months, which is a record for me.
Wow.
Because I know in the UK, it takes 1 year before they do that.
Yeah, in France as well. Like sometimes some very reputable businessman,
Yes.
quite known. We heard like the will inheritance process it took like for one of them up to 4 years.
You know, don't forget, if you look at the population of the UAE, it's only 10 million. If you go to France, what is it, 80 million?
65, I think,
Say
to 70, yeah, 70 million. Yeah.
So here's 10 million. So that's why, because the population is less, the work is faster. But in other countries, population is higher. So it will take time.
Does it have to do anything with the number of assets that the...
No, that's why having that folder, that death folder, you need to have a list of everything. But what is upsetting, husband, don't tell the wife where the money is. So what do you want the wife to do? How she's going to locate the money? So I'm sorry to say, I feel like the housekeeping tips, you need to start today. But people don't think about these things. That's why, I was saying to you before we started the session, that this is a subject people don't want to talk about in the first place.
Yeah, you say the right word. It's a bit taboo.
It's a taboo. They think it's bad luck. And what can I say now then? I mean, someone said to me, oh, I'm going to live till I'm 80. I'll think about my will when I'm 80. And I said, come off it.
No one
knows when your time is written. But, unfortunately, I do cross paths with so many people, different school of thought. What can I say? I mean, that's why I said to you, I get busy when people pass away because I don't need to then, explain or sell the concept. Now the person's gone, we need to deal with the execution.
The harsh way.
The harsh way, the hard way, that's right.
It was very insightful. Thank you very much.
No, thank you very
Mr.
much.
Mohammed. And obviously, I'm sure we'll get a lot of questions from the viewers, so maybe we can do a part 2.
Anytime.
Whenever you're free.
I'll be delighted if I can be blunt and request that let's go through the death folder. Let's go through the housekeeping tips. I have even sort of went into it in detail, but that is a different subject. It's educating people what folder they need. That folder is what you take to the court.
Okay.
So when I said to you 2 months for the orders, that's after the folder's submitted. Now, to get that folder, it could take you months.
Okay.
To get your paperwork in
obviously.
order. So, up to you.
Okay, so we will discover that in the next episode. In the meantime, we will also write your details in the description.
Please.
So whoever has any questions, any
Please.
queries, or anyone wants to proceed, they can get in
Anytime.
touch with you directly.
We have, even a few videos that I can share with people just to talk about this in detail in terms of the, the information they should have. But for me, it's important that having the right documents at the right time.
Yeah, it will save a lot of trouble.
Correct.
Thank you very much, Mohammed.
You're very welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Abdullah.
Bye-bye.